G'day humans, Chris Stead from Finder here. We're talking NFT games. Today the subject is Enjin, a platform for indie developers to help bring their games onto the blockchain and into the NFT games and play to earn space. Now I've got a nice lengthy interview here with Jeremy Ray, aka Junglist from Enjin, who's going to take us through what they're doing with the platform at the moment, the games that they're working on, and we're also going to talk a little bit about bringing traditional gamers across to the play-to-earn NFT game space. So without further ado, let's dive in and have a chat with Jeremy. All right, g'day, Jeremy, aka Junglist, mate. We've spent a lot of time together working in the video game space over the last 15 years. Thanks very much for joining us. Look, to start off with, mate, can you just tell us what's your position at Enjin? What do you do, and why did you join the company?
Sure. I'm a content strategist at Enjin, so I'm broadly helping out with the blog, video content, SEO, social media stuff. So helping get Enjin noticed, but also trying to. Enjin has like a bunch of different facets to the business. You know, we're attracting developers because we want developers to use our tool. We are trying to build the foundation of a sort of decentralized, community-governed metaverse, and of course, we also want people to get excited about the Enjin product and the token and stuff like that, as well as Efinity. So we're trying to attract a whole bunch of different kinds of people, and we have different asks of those people. So I'm kind of helping to build excitement for that and get our vision out there for what our kind of metaverse is, because when we talk about metaverse, like every company has their own definition of what a metaverse is. Like, all these companies like Nvidia and Meta, and they're all making their own metaverses, but they all mean something different when they say the word. And most often when they're talking about metaverse, they're talking about experiences that you and I have kind of like, we've experienced before. Like, we've covered games for a long time. So most of the time they're just talking about a virtual world, right? And, we've played WoW and we've played all these other things, and we've covered things like Second Life. So to me, that's more of kind of just like a verse. There's not much meta in that. Like, if you use the word meta, it's kind of like, you're supposed to be overarching and kind of connecting multiple different things. So most of these virtual worlds are just kind of like a verse, whereas I think our vision of a metaverse is a little bit truer to the term. And Enjin's been building that since long before Zuckerberg made his meta announcement, So, Enjin is with Efinity building kind of like a decentralized metaverse that's going to be community governed with the EFI token. And it's going to truly be built with cross-world data in mind, like cross-game data, cross-game items. There's going to be standards in place that's going to make it easy for developers to plug into other projects' NFTs and vice versa, like, open up their NFTs to other developers. So that to me is kind of like a truly what a metaverse is. Things are persistent across worlds. And not just items, but characters and quests and stories and even things that have nothing to do with games. So yeah, it's kind of at the moment my kind of role to help create content around getting that vision out there and getting people excited about that.
Yeah, I started writing about Enjin about 2018, I reckon, so 4 years ago, and even back then they were working on what's effectively what we now call a metaverse. So it's not like it's a fresh idea for the company.
Yeah, back then I think they were calling it multiverse, and it was like the Enjin multiverse. And so you can go back and you can find old materials since the earliest days of the company. This was the idea. And then now when, as soon as Zuckerberg made his metaverse announcement, and then metaverse is the term, and then, Enjin gets grouped in. If you check like the sites like CoinMarketCap and stuff like, and CoinGecko, we're lumped in with the metaverse tokens, which is appropriate, but it's, everyone's using the metaverse term now instead of multiverse, which is fine. But yeah, I remember like, it's actually kind of funny because way back in 2018, I was writing about Enjin too. And I was at Fandom back then. And I came on the Finder YouTube channel and I was talking to you about Enjin. And we were talking about multiple things because I think back then, I was just dipping my toe and doing my research into crypto and gaming and stuff like that. But it's funny. It's kind of full circle. Back in 2018, we were chatting about Enjin, and now I'm working at Enjin and I'm back.
Yeah, I'll actually put a link to that video down below because it'd be interesting to see what we said back then about it versus what we say now. I mean, I guess one of the big bonuses for Enjin is that because they've been doing it for so much longer than a lot of the other people out there, they've already got quite an established library of games. Like how many games now are currently using the Enjin platform?
Ooh, I'm unsure about the entire number of games that are using the Enjin tools. I know our big focus at the moment is moving towards Efinity, because as you're aware, and probably most of the people watching this channel are aware, Ethereum has become quite clogged in recent years, and that sort of put a stop to playing games and trading within games in the normal way that we would like. So Efinity is the big focus. We've got 100 plus developers that are either moving their game to Efinity or pledged to build a new project on Efinity. And that number is growing all the time. Enjin's talking to big partners and a lot of indie developers. It's equally good as a solution to it's highly scalable and infinitely upgradable. So it's like it's equally good for large scale solutions. If we want to talk to larger publishers, but also smaller indie devs who want to leverage the power of an item marketplace without being an Amazon or without being a Valve, right? Because if you wanted to have a Valve item marketplace previously, you had to be a Valve and you had to run a centralized architecture. But we've got solo devs who are doing that now. We're kind of that's the whole Ethereum problem is the reason that Enjin created JumpNet, which is kind of like a short-term solution. And you'll be able to, all the developers will be able to use JumpNet to bring their NFTs over to Efinity. And that's the big focus for us at the moment. Efinity is sort of designed from the ground up to be scalable, low transaction fees, quick transaction speeds, and lots of new features that reduce the barriers to entry for gamers. So, things like when you and I know, when we load up a website for an NFT game and you're instantly hit with a wallet connector and you have to buy some crypto to even start. These are barriers to entry that we're trying to eliminate. So, we've got features like the discrete accounts and fuel tanks that basically allow developers to have all that stuff under the hood. The blockchain stuff is kind of invisible as it should be. And then, at a later time, if the player wants to start trading and they want to take advantages of the blockchain stuff, they can do that. They can claim their wallet. But it's important to be able to just jump into the game and get immersed first. And, often when I go to these websites, I'm like, just tell me what the game is like first, what's the game, but what am I getting into here? That's our big focus. So we've got 100 plus developers who are going to build on that thus far, but it's a fast growing number.
And when you talk about that vast number of developers, which is pretty impressive, are these in part of using the tools with Enjin and being part of the Enjin ecosystem, is there an expectation there that they will then provide their NFTs within that game to the broader metaverse that you guys are building?
There's no strings attached to that. They can kind of do whatever they want with it, but we do encourage that. It's the kind of ecosystem that we're trying to build and encourage, because that's our vision for how this whole thing is going to go. There are some projects that, there's a lot of projects where they feel positively about that, but they haven't quite figured out what a good integration of that is yet. And that's totally fine. There's also a lot of projects who are, I think the most advanced stage that it's in at the moment is still kind of like a toe dip stage, where you've got projects that are kind of putting their items up, making them open, saying, publishing documents that are like, here's how to plug into this. But at the moment, it's still here's a sword, here's another item. and then another game like might take that and experiment with it. That's kind of the stage that we're at. Like, Age of Rust has taken a few items from other games and put that into their worlds. Enjin itself has made a few items that are just kind of open to everyone to use. But at the moment, we're kind of at a stage. It's kind of like a cocoon stage where we've got multiple things in the works that are going to help out with this. I personally think, after a few products launch, and then we have some open standards to serve this, that's when we're really going to start seeing this supercharged. We've got, so Efinity just launched as a Parachain. We've got the NFT.io marketplace, which is coming soon as well. We've got the new Enjin wallet, which is going to be launching on Android as well. And we've got some open developer tools, which is going to allow any developer without pitching to be able to use Enjin's tools and kind of make whatever they want. So that to me is true to the vision of just democratizing the whole thing and making it super easy for game developers, so they don't have to learn blockchain tools or anything like that. It's hard enough to make a game, and anyone can kind of jump in and do that. And then once we have all that in place, and we've got some standards where we can say, like, this is how the data in the file should be structured, right? Like, it should be similar to like a JSON file in this way, where, and we'll have like a sort of meta standard for how the data should be structured, and then also substandards for things like equipment in an RPG, or how standards for how health should be handled, or health should be scaled across various games. And the good news is there that we already have some of those standards in place. Like, gaming has its own kind of languages that we get used to. Like, everyone who's played an RPG is familiar with the equipment loadout screen, where you've got a slot for your helmet, you've got a slot for your chest and your legs and something like that. That is a standard. It's an informal organic standard that's grown through gaming. So that will probably end up being an open standard that NFTs use for a character that has different items. Similarly, you have gamers just inherently know from playing games over multiple years that the purple item is really good, and the green item is less good, and the white item is less good, and the yellow one is the super rare legendary. So these are standards that are kind of just grown organically from gaming that I think it's going to be necessary to use, and developers are going to be able to take that and kind of run with it. But that is still in its like formative stages. Like, we've got some documentation that's being built out at the moment. We don't want to be too overbearing with this. Like, it's important to us to not limit developers. So we want this to grow somewhat organically, and we want people to be able to do what they want. But we've got some documentation about how the data should be structured at the moment. And I think that's one of the keys. So it's not kind of like the Wild West of everyone just structuring their data however they want. And then, we've got items at the moment that anyone can kind of plug into. But it'd be great in the future to also have a sort of master list of because I get developers asking me like, hey, what other games at the moment have open NFTs that I can just sort of pick from? And I'd love to publish a master list of that soon, and be able to tag it with different things like, these are fantasy items, these are sci-fi items, things like that.
Maybe this is a bit of a naive question, but you talked about the tools that Enjin is building to allow developers, I guess, to access blockchain and mint NFTs without having to know so much about it. Is this something that's going to be completely on the Enjin ecosystem, or is it something that you're going to be able to migrate into engines that indies are using, like Unreal or Unity, that type of thing?
Yeah, at the moment, integrations with other engines is definitely on the radar. Not a naive question at all. It's a great question. And that's actually one of the things that initially attracted me to Enjin. Back in 2018 when we were both writing about Enjin, that's one of the main points that I thought Enjin, they had the right idea, which is that with the original Enjin tools, they made it a priority to plug into Unity And there was also a Godot extension from memory. And there wasn't an official Unreal extension, but there were some loose hacky tools to kind of make it work with Unreal. And I think the community played a large part in helping the Unreal stuff work. And the community is still very active with that. Like if you go into the Enjin Discord at the moment, there's a lot of developers that are helping people get the Enjin tools working with the various game development engines. So at the moment, the dev tools are in a place where, you know, we've got this new open platform coming out where it's kind of like version 2 of our developer tools. So we're kind of waiting for that to come out first, and then at a later stage after that, it'll be a priority to plug into all these various tools, because I think that's super important. You know, for just making it the vision of making it easy on developers. Like the old Unity plugin was something like 1 or 2 clicks. You could add NFTs to your game. You just didn't have to worry about the tech of it. Which is great, because, you know, making a game is hard enough. Like you have to, especially if you're a small team or a solo dev, you know, you're already you're wearing so many hats. Like you're worrying about the art, you're worrying about the design, you're worrying about the marketing, the programming, all that stuff. You know, it's stressful enough. And making a game fun, finding the fun in a design is, it's a veteran skill. So then adding, you know, months to learn blockchain and NFT tech, it's a bit too much of an ask. So yeah, I think, you know, in my personal vision, like in my personal opinion, it's like crucial to the vision. So, but yeah, no, it's like, that's definitely where the company is thinking of. Like that was our original thing. That was Enjin's one of the coolest things about Enjin originally. And yeah, I see us going there again.
It's interesting because you're talking about taking it from both ends in your last couple of answers. So about making it kind of a easy, transparent, boundaryless experience for the developers who are creating the games, who are just the creatives. But also at the other end, we're talking about making it a lot you know, more game focused and less about the NFTs from the user perspective, because the more that we hide potentially, you know, you mentioned before about signing up for wallets as the first thing that's with you, and then you got to buy crypto and all that, which falls outside of those standards, I guess you were talking about that gamers have fallen into. I mean, but with the idea of going onto a marketplace and like a WoW auctions site or something similar and finding an item that you want and acquiring it with in-game tokens is not disparate from what we do. So I guess you got to approach it from both ways.
Yeah. It's, you know, even normal games find ways to nickel and dime us, right? Like I've seen some screenshots on Twitter about the latest, is it Gran Turismo that the reviewers are playing at the moment?
The cars. Yeah.
And it's like, some of them, like the McLaren, looked like it was hundreds of dollars, if not more.
140 I think.
Yeah, it's not a problem that's unique to NFT games at all. But you know, it's the NFT games are just in that Wild West space of figuring out. I mean, like I said, it's hard enough to make a game, and then you add on trying to make NFTs work within the economy of it. It does make it harder. And then if you add on play to earn on top of that, that makes it even harder. And I saw, you know, your recent video on what was it, the Gala game, the farming one?
Oh, Townstar.
Yeah, that one. And, you know, they had the monthly access pass on top of everything else. So, you know, I think we're still figuring all that stuff out. And that's, you know, with Enjins, it's very much like a picks and shovels approach. You know, we let the developers figure that out for themselves. We have a very low base rate that's taken in terms of like item transaction fees, which is, you know, the developer can add on top of that. I don't want to misquote it. It's something like 3% or 2.5% is the base rate, which is, you know, a lot more favorable than the last time I checked. Steam's was about 15%. You know, where if you transfer an item to another player on Steam, you know, Valve is taking that cut of the transaction. So because we're a trustless system on a blockchain that inherently has less of a middleman, that allows us to give some of that value back to the players. The developer can then raise that to, you know, whatever they want. If they want to take an additional 3%, if they want to take an additional 10%, you know, that's kind of up to them. Yeah, to me, that's where the value comes from in play to earn games. It's like we're taking that chunk that would normally go towards that centralized architecture and then giving it back to the player base.
So mentioning play to earn there, and the entire kind of, I guess, culture that's emerged with scholars and guilds. And I did an interview with the guys over at Ubisoft recently when they were doing their Digits release, and they made a very interesting comment where they declared that guilds were the future of user acquisition, and that the building of ways for play to earn scholars to be involved with projects, but not only that, for guilds to be able to integrate quite easily with NFT games. From Ubisoft's perspective, being such a massive studio, they were like, that's quintessential to the NFT game experience moving forward, is to be able to, utilize these guilds as a platform for human beings to be brought into the game. So is that something that Enjin's got so much going on, but is that part of what you guys are looking at?
I don't think we have any plans to support or run guilds or anything like that at the moment. We've got a lot going on. We've got, in addition to all the product launches I mentioned, we've got $100 million Metaverse fund that we launched, which is going to be used to support different games in the Enjin ecosystem, but also kind of encourage the types of games that we want to see, which I think is super important. I think, look, I actually think they're super forward thinking over at Ubisoft, and it's kind of brave, given the current environment that NFTs are in within the gaming community, to be pushing forward in the way that they are. I don't know if I exactly agree that that's the only future ahead. Like, I think that's one future. I think that's one way to make the system work. I think that's an organic system that grew out of things like Axie. And it's a way to make it work where you have like this economy that's ever expanding and things are getting more expensive, and it makes it a way that, newer players can get into it. But I still think that that's just one way to do it. I think, we're in the super early stages where we're going to see multiple different models come out. And, Axie and the things that grew out of it, the models that grew out of it, people have like, this is a way to, like when people think of Axie and they think of play to earn, they're thinking about people making a living off of the game. I think that idea is still going to be not 100% of what the space is. Like it might end up being niche. It might end up being only like half of what the space is. Inherently you will have people trying to support themselves, but I kind of see it as like a I don't know, kind of a red herring, especially when we're talking to the wider gaming community and we're saying like, hey, there's this new system called play to earn, and they instantly, their minds go to, people are going to try, think that they can make their weekly wage off this. Whereas I think we have a long way to go before that type of system is fully fleshed out, and we've got a lot of different things to try before we get there. In the meantime, I see it more as like a thing where like, hey, we have systems like Counter-Strike where you can trade items to other players, and that's good because that's a proven use case for this type of thing, because I can spend and I did this. I spent $17 on my AK skin, and then I can sell it for $17, give or take, to another player. And that way, both of us aren't giving money to the company. We're just kind of trading amongst ourselves. And in that way, it actually, one of the criticisms is that NFT games introduce false scarcity. For me, that's actually less scarcity because two players have enjoyed the item, and at any given time, only one player has paid for it. So that's not more scarcity, that's less. And then on top of that, you have this, like systems like Counter-Strikes are inherently kind of busted because they have a sort of pyramid of item value where you have really cool items at the top, and at the bottom of the pyramid, you have a lot of items that are not very good. They're not even worth trading, right? Like, at the bottom of the pyramid are the items that you get just from playing the game. And anyone who's played Counter-Strike will know, like, occasionally you get items at the end of a game. They're the absolute trashed here. They're not even worth trading. In a lot of cases, the fee to trade them is the same as the actual cost of the item. So you're not going to use them. You're not going to trade them. Why do they even exist? Meanwhile, you have this whole community of Counter-Strike players making skins. They're awesome skins. They're beautiful skins. They're sharing them on the subreddit, and they're not being included in the game because it doesn't fit Valve's model of, we need small amounts of really cool items at the top, and we need a bunch of crap at the bottom. So that to me is a broken system where it's like, why do we have all of this content being created for this game that can't be included? Because they inherently need there to be some like artificial value for the things at the top. So for me, before we get to the stage, that sort of late stage of play to earn, like in the middle ground, I think what we can solve is this broken economy of things where it's like, because we have the trustless system that has less of a middleman, less of a centralized architecture, less staff, we can give some of that value back to the players, which means we can make some of the items that you get just for playing valuable, right? It's not just the trash tier items. We can make those items have genuine value that you get just for playing, and that way you respect the people who are playing the game and not just paying, right? Because and those people, I think that's good. I think that's worth doing, because if you're just playing the game and not paying, you are still providing value to the system, right? Like, because if you're the best Counter-Strike player in the world, and you have all the items and whatever, if you're playing on an empty server, you're not having fun. Right. So just the people in the server are providing value to the experience for everyone. So it's just kind of acknowledging that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a super interesting like model, the whole guild thing, but it's just one way of doing it. It's one way of solving the ever expanding problem that we've got. There's going to be, in the end, I think, multiple ways of doing it, but that's a big problem. And in the meantime, I'm focused kind of on the smaller problem of like, how do we respect people's time, and how do we acknowledge the value of just playing players, not just paying players?
Is this tying a little bit to the My Metaverse concept that you guys are working on? Like I saw it up on the site, and yeah, how's that work? That's about getting games which aren't NFT games and then allowing them to be able to mint in retrospect.
Yeah, that's Simon K's project, Simon Kernagora. He's doing that with Minecraft and GTA. Really cool stuff, really interesting stuff. So I think in Minecraft was one of the original games that was used as sort of a demo for Enjin. When the Enjin folks went over to GDC and they kind of said, hey everyone, like here's an item in Minecraft. I'm going to transfer it over to someone else in the blockchain right now, in front of everyone. I mean, that's one thing that I didn't even think of before I was turned on to Enjin and I started working at Enjin. But yeah, turning non-NFT games into NFT games, and in a way, there are other examples of that as well. Like, if you look at the third-party marketplaces that are surrounding like Counter-Strike Go and stuff like that, for a long time, these have been the unofficial way of like cashing out of the CSGO system, because the Valve would tell you, oh no, you can't cash out, therefore our loot boxes aren't gambling, right? But you can cash out. It's just through a tolerated but not sanctioned third-party system where you trade your item to a third-party website and then you sell it. But those are using them NFTs now. Those are using the blockchain. So in a third-party way, they've kind of done the same thing, right? Like they've attached each item to an NFT. But yeah, super cool that that Simon's doing that. I think Minecraft's a great use for it. GTA looks really interesting. I'm one of those weird people in the world that has never played GTA. I was never really super interested in it. Bro. I know, right? Yeah, I think it's probably like, it looks like a technical achievement to me that he's made that work. And yeah, I think the GTA one's actually coming up soon. So watch out for that one. And they're going to do more and more.
Well, if you're going to butt heads with anyone, butt heads with Rockstar. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I hear they're not litigious at all, right?
One of the big kind of games, I guess, it's come across the radar with Enjin lately has been CryptoBlades. So it's got a 1.1 million user base, I understand, that is now migrating across to Enjin. Is that right? Do you know much about the game?
I've had a brief look at it. I haven't played it. 1.1 million users is massive. We keep on bringing more and more projects over to the ecosystem. We've got another one that was announced. Like the CryptoBlades one, I think, was announced in conjunction with Efinity launching as a parachain, which is huge. That's a super big opportunity, because that's more opportunity to, when we talk about like cross-game items and stuff like that. I think one of the keys to really launching that is having a game that is that massive, and having a game where developers can plug into those NFTs as long as those developers make them open. And then you're basically saying to that entire player base, like, hey, we're going to respect the time that you've spent in that world. And the time that you've spent there means something in our world. And when you do that with a game that's as large as CryptoBlades, or you take any other game as an example, with a large player base, you're immediately getting a large portion of those players interested in your game. Like I kind of view it as like, people ask the question, like I've been asked the question, like, why would a developer code their project to recognize other games' NFTs? And for me, there's two answers to that. Like one is because it's neat. It's just kind of neat. Like, I want to explore the game design implications of that, and I just want to have fun with it. But the second is a marketing answer, where it's like, if you view it as like a marketing funnel, imagine like if you could walk into a marketing meeting and say like, hey, I can get a large amount of people just immediately halfway down the funnel. Yeah. Right. So all of that effort and budget that you spent trying to get people from outside into the top of the funnel and funneling their way down, like I can immediately get them to the interest stage and to the stage where they're emotionally invested, because it's not going to be all of them. It's not going to be all 1.1 million players of that game, but some portion of them are going to be like, oh, I wonder how my NFTs are represented in this game. So yeah, I think having large games with large player bases is key to that. And we've been announcing more since then too. We brought over a game that was I'm gonna have to look up the name of it because we just announced it, but it reminds me of that old Off-Road. That old Off-Road arcade game. Oh yeah. Hang on, I'll find it for you. Or maybe you can like edit in some footage of it. It's cool. You just edit. The NFTs are like the arenas and the ads around there and stuff like that. We haven't had a game like that in a while. So I'm keen. It sounds like
an obvious win-win, right? So, like if you're allowing your NFTs to surface in other games that are on the same network with the same standard token at the center of it all, and you and me have both worked quite closely with the indie development scene over the years and watched them struggle so much to get attention with really good projects. A lot of our chat today was spoken about the platform and not so much about the games that are on it. With Enjin, is Enjin going to be a voice for these games, or is it going to be more or less be the platform, but the developers are going to still be the main pushers of their own cause?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, and the answer is yes. We definitely will be a voice for them. By the way, Block Trucks is the name of that game. And you can see this in what we've been doing so far. Like, if you look at our blog, our social media, our YouTube channel, we've had sponsored articles around the place and gaming publications as well. And we've done PR around this as well. We want to celebrate the games that are going to be using Enjin tools and celebrate and encourage the types of games that we want to see that support our vision for the decentralized metaverse, but B, also kind of like take a thought leadership role in the space. And I think it's super appropriate that we do that because, on our team, we have guys like Vitek Radomski, who basically made the ERC 1155 standard. And so he's, when it comes to the technicalities of this and the vision, like it's hard to go past Vitek. So and we have a lot of people on the team that are passionate about this vision. So I think it's an interesting space to be in right now when you were talking about thought leadership and celebrating these kinds of games among the gaming community, especially because the gaming community is like, the numbers I've seen are about 50-50 at the moment, with, gamers who are kind of like interested in it and developers who are interested in it. And the other half thinks it's like literal Hitler. It's I think it's improving over time. Like I think, a few months ago, I noticed people not making the distinction between proof of work and proof of stake. Yeah. Or maybe even before that, maybe like 6 months ago. And then, go a little later and all of a sudden people are still criticizing it, but they know what Ethereum is and they know what proof of stake is. And they're still making mistakes. They're still applying Ethereum energy statistics to Solana NFTs. But we've made progress. So I think we'll keep making progress in that regard. At the moment, it's just a really weird space where, wading into, like, we do care about bringing developers over to Enjin and so they can use our tools. We do want that to happen, but you can't target developers without targeting kind of all developers. Like there's no way to target only the developers who are blockchain curious, right? So there's just a lot of hostility to deal with at the moment. Yeah, I think Enjin's interested in taking that thought leadership role and directing things towards how we want it to be, and then letting history be the judge. Because I think there's going to be, there are some projects out there. Like there are some scams. There are some projects where it's growing a lot in the early stages, and then the early investors just use the news people as exit liquidity. Those things do exist, but there are also good examples of how this can be. We're just going to be that good example. We're going to figure this out with our developers. We're going to figure out how these business models and these economies are going to work with our developers. We're going to write about it. We're going to make video content about it. So yeah, we've kind of already been doing that. We've got like content around how Efinity is going to work and how we reduce barriers to entry for new players. We've got more content coming up with answering questions that like we've been talking about in this call. Like, why would a developer code their game? Why would they put in the effort to recognize other games' NFTs? Because for a lot of developers who don't understand the space, they just view that as more work. They don't understand yet that like it's a lot less effort spent in the early stage to build your game to recognize other games' NFTs than it is, at the later stage of spending a lot of budget and effort on advertising to get new players into the top of that funnel. So yeah, it's getting game developers, getting gamers to understand it. Yeah, it's a big part of what we've been doing, and yeah, I see that continuing going forward.
Yeah, finally, I'd like to just talk a little bit about that hostility you mentioned. And, we both come from a very much a traditional gaming space. We've worked in the gaming media for 20 plus years. That's a Dark Souls picture behind you. They're one of the most hardcore traditional games there is, of which I know you're a humongous fan. I'm assuming you're playing a lot of Elden Ring at the moment.
I don't actually, I've been pretending the whole time. I've never actually played one.
No way. So, what do you think it is with the traditional gamers? I mean, I've got my perspective. I've done videos about it that you might have seen on the channel already, but where do you feel like that aggression and that antagonism is just getting it wrong? Or what is there a secret ingredient, a secret step that they can make in their mind to just kind of go, wait a second, yeah, there are some horrible things that are happening in the NFT game space which aren't great, but there's also this amazing promise and potential for real positivity in the way that we can play all games moving forward, not necessarily just play to earn experiences.
Yeah, I mean, obviously lack of information, lack of education is the huge part of it. Yeah, I wish that like I've seen good criticisms of NFTs. None of it is coming from the gaming space. It's a real shame. I'd love to believe that my tribe, the gamer tribe, is the scene that is coming up with the most insightful criticisms and the most nuanced criticisms. Because I think criticism is okay. Like I've seen great criticism from like Moxie and stuff like that, where he's actually dived in and created some NFTs, and he had some things to say about the centralization versus decentralization. That was great stuff. I wish some of that was coming from the gaming community, but there is something about the gaming community where we are incapable of that level of nuance. People seem keen to skip the research stage and skip straight to the part where they just feel smug and superior about something. It's a shame. Like I've seen a lot of uninformed takes. I've seen a lot of takes from like gaming pundits and seasoned developers who assume that their 10 years of authority in this space automatically applies to this space, which is not the case. I've seen a lack of rationality in that. People are attacking a point of view or attacking an argument that no one is making. And specifically, I'm referring to the idea that, people are rebutting, and I've seen this all around the place from veteran developers. Obviously, my Twitter circles is all games media and game developers. So I see this a lot where they're attacking this argument of like being able to take a helmet from World of Warcraft and put it in Call of Duty. And they attack that idea and they say, you're never going to be able to take an item from one game willy-nilly and put it in another game. You're never going to take a gun from Counter-Strike and put it in Call of Duty just willy-nilly. Cool. I mean, they're right about that, but literally no one building in this space is arguing for that. And with just a small amount of research, they could have, if they had just reached out to a blockchain developer or someone building in the NFT space, they could have learned that. But people don't seem interested in engaging with the best form of the argument. And I'm sad about that. I wish my gamer tribe was more intellectually honest. In truth, like when I explain how it's actually going to be, people are surprised. Even developers that I've spoken to in real life, now that Sydney is we're actually allowed to see people face to face again. They're surprised when I tell them like, no, we're not talking about like 3D assets or 2D assets being moved on chain. All of that's too expensive to be on chain, right? Like images, videos, audio, all of that's too expensive to store on chain. So what we're talking about is just data. That's what's going to be stored on chain, which is very different to an art NFT where like, you have a receipt for an item that's stored off chain. A gaming NFT is data that's stored on chain. And that data can be, there's multiple different ways you can do that. You can make it immutable or you can make it dynamic. Inherently, because it's just data, you can bring that to different worlds. It is up to that new world to interpret that. It is up to that new world. And there's different levels of interpreting that data. So like you can, if you want to make a fully new 3D asset to interpret that data or a new 2D asset, or you can interpret it as merely, you can attach those attributes to an existing asset, or, the absolute like laziest way you could do it is just like acknowledging that that NFT exists and then transforming it into some kind of like essence that can be used for crafting or currency or what have you. But you're just sort of acknowledging that it exists, right? And then transforming all of it into a uniform thing. So there's multiple different levels of how you can acknowledge that data. And with, varying levels of effort involved with doing that. And developers are kind of, even a lot of game developers who've been developing games for a long time are surprised when I tell them that it's going to be like that. Because they had this idea in their heads. They saw the headlines about Bored Apes and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's just a shame. I mean, we could speculate to the cause of it. It makes me sad that like I see a large correlation with like the people who are most emotionally invested in hating NFTs are the people who like, and this is just, anecdotally within my circles, they're the same people who have this desire to feel intellectually and morally superior. Like I see a correlation, and I don't know what to do about that. It's like a religion at this point. It's like, facts just bounce off these people. They don't want to hear it. They're more concerned with what their friends think than being right. Yeah, it's sad. I mean, I think gaming attracts all kinds of people. It attracts as a hobby, it's all walks of life are into gaming. Everyone's a gamer now, right? Like gaming is for everyone, but it also, because it's an escapist hobby, it does attract a lot of people who are having a bit of a tough time in life. And there's a correlation, I think, with those people and this need to feel intellectually superior, and along with that need to feel intellectually superior. And this is largely speculative on my part, but it's just what I see in my circles. When people have a need to feel smart, they often skip the research stage, because the research stage often involves it's time consuming, especially in this topic area, like, NFTs and blockchain. It takes a long time to be up on this. And like, if you're in the NFT and blockchain space and you're living it and you're working in it, it's hard enough to keep up to date with everything that's happening for us who are like in it every day. And then we see these people kind of coming in from the outside and trying to have strong opinions on it, and we just kind of roll our eyes. But it's often so A, it takes a lot of research, but B, when you're in that research stage, it often involves feeling dumb, because you're challenging your own assumptions about, you're learning new things, and you might learn things that disagree with your worldview. So I think in some areas in life, in some aspects in life, not to get too philosophical, but in some situations we have to choose between feeling smart and being smart. And, if you want to feel smart and you want to stay on that early stage of the Dunning-Kruger scale, then you can go and be comfortable on Twitter with your friends. But if you want to be smart, it involves looking up the other point of view as well. It involves steel manning, not typing into Google, like, what are the best arguments against NFTs, but going the opposite direction and going like, can I steel man the other side of this? Does this make any sense?
Well, I mean, it's not unusual for gamers. There's a long history of this kind of reaction. And, I've been in the thick of it as well. Motion controls and Nintendo Wii popped straight to mind. And that was slammed and slagged beyond belief. They sold 100 million units and killed it. So, you wouldn't have known that from the dialogue that was going on at the time. I mean, you talk about like the concept of the ways that things can unlock in games. Just look at the Amiibo, which effectively does the similar thing as what you just talked about with NFTs, about something just being a code that then therefore unlocks something in that game that could be completely different to the game that it came from. Just look to the Amiibo. And I personally think a lot of people would be surprised when they discover how much of their favorite traditional gaming companies and titles are already using blockchain. And they're already buying NFTs and they don't even know it, because it's a closed system centralized off in someone else's server, and they're locked out of the pathway to remuneration if they decide to move on, like you did with your Counter-Strike skin. So I think, I think we'll get there with that conversation. But overall, it sounds like I think Enjin is definitely going to be at the forefront of it all. I think Enjin's been at the forefront of it all since it all kicked off in 2018. Certainly when I first got into it, it was a name back then. Games like Age of Rust, Nine Lives Arena, they were titles I was looking at 4 years ago, and they're still going strong. So I'm stoked that they've got you on board, mate. And thank you very much for talking to me and taking us all through exactly what you guys are doing.
No worries, man. It's been a pleasure.
No worries. Hopefully we can catch a beer now, that you can actually see people face to face.
That's right, yeah.
All right. See you, mate.
Catch ya.